Hello everybody, Andrew Casey at Hypersanity Books. Today we'll be taking a look at Dan Aykroyd with his writing tips, different screenplays that he has done, and other advice that you might find interesting. Otherwise, let's get into it. Number 10. Ghostbusters.
If there's something strange in the neighborhood, who you gonna call?
Ghostbusters is one of the most successful movies of all time. With the screenplay, Dan Aykroyd is more of an outliner. He outlined a lot of the script, and then Harold Ramis came through with creative changes as a pantser to work on different sections, sort of like the beats method. Ultimately, both came together and worked on an interesting screenplay, though the original script was different to the movie that we received. Number 9. Novelization that ruined my childhood. Yes, I've reviewed this once before, the Ghostbusters novelization. Wow. When you look at deleted scenes, I saw interviews with Dan Aykroyd talking especially about the Dream Ghost scene.
In the director's cut, I think the belt comes off and the pants come down. I think.
Whoa.
Yeah, so sex with ghosts.
You didn't get nervous?
There are so many sexual references within the novelization to the original screenplay. Oh my gosh, I can't look at Ghostbusters the same way anymore. I'm not saying that it's all completely bad, it was just the sexual content wasn't necessary for the story. I think the target audience was expected for adults, and then it went for a wider audience. A younger audience engaged into Ghostbusters. So with certain things, Dan Aykroyd made changes. So with a work of art that you work on, you might create something and then some drastic changes come along to make it better and tone out certain things. Number 8. Outsourcing. With the popularity of Ghostbusters, and yes, there are some creative writing that Dan Aykroyd does, and there is also outsourcing to other people, and when you're working with different companies, Dan Aykroyd sticks to traditional publishing with the novelization. It's also traditional works with a lot of things that he does. He's not so keen on indie authors or independent film. He sticks to the traditional path and using other people's money to create the artwork. With the creative arts of the cartoon series, The Real Ghostbusters, he still had some oversight on things, so did Harold Ramis. And then with the Ghostbusters franchise from there, he outsourced for different writers to create the show, but ultimately still had the creative control. And that was also another thing. Certain episodes with different references to other franchises, there's a lot of issues around copyright to get around, and that is where outsourcing saves him a lot of time while producing more work. Number 7. Ghostbusters 2.
Ray, we'd like to shoot the monster. Could you move, please?
Ray?
Ray! No! I, Ray, am Bingo!
Bill Murray was actively against a Ghostbusters 3 before Ghostbusters 2 was created. With the original possibility of a title, he suggested The Last of the Ghostbusters to have it killing off the characters, so there was never going to be a Ghostbusters 3. That was interesting how much he hated the idea of a Ghostbusters 3. With the subject matter of Ghostbusters 2 at hand, no one wanted to work on it. Harold Ramis was satisfied with the original movie, worked on a little bit of the projects for the series and other illustrations, comics, but he was satisfied. Dan Aykroyd was satisfied with what Ghostbusters was and didn't want to make Ghostbusters 2. Number 6. OPM. Other People's Money. With every idea that he pitches between whether it's writing for a screenplay, writing a book, whatever project he's working on, it's using other people's money to create the work of art. With the Sony studio, it's pitching the idea to carry on with each project that he does. That's the same as with another screenplay he did, Nothing But Trouble, for Warner Brothers. It's whoever's going to flip the bill. So with some of your writing, you need to think about what's best for you. Some traditional paths may be good and could create some good cash flow, some revenue, and get your work out there. Also, there are other risks for creating those work of arts. Self-publishing gives you more creative control, and sometimes hybrid publishing can be a little bit of both worlds that might be a good option for you. However, with Dan Aykroyd, some of those risks then made other works that he did come with other consequences later on. Number 5, the reboot no one asked for.
Hateful tweets coming and you're like...
As he said, he had a big following on Twitter. The next day, the backlash was ridiculous. The harassment is ridiculous. The harassment to actors is ridiculous. The amount of comments and videos about the movie before any shooting is done, let alone a screenplay being presented. And what does this have to do with writing? Well, as previously said, when you're taking traditional paths and someone else is flipping the bill, you are losing some part of creative control with your story. And that's maybe a good thing to creating some revenue, and it might be a bad thing to turn your work of art into something else, pulling a capitalism.
Go see the movie and then talk about how bad it is. I'm going to do something different, something unheard of. I'm not going to see it.
The frustrations that Dan Aykroyd had, as far as writing goes, was trying to help with some of the writing and suggesting for Paul Feig to work on certain shots so they didn't have to do reshoots. The dance montage scene.
Oh dear, brave men and women of the protection services industry. I would like to see you dance.
Oh my gosh, the fact that that cost so much money to organise that dance routine. There are always going to be creative conflicts with any story that you write. I'm working on a book, The Arsehole Who Didn't Want to Celebrate Christmas. Now, not everyone is going to enjoy the title. But I have to make those creative choices, and I'm making those creative choices with a co-author. Same as Dan Aykroyd has made different creative choices. Number 4, Coneheads.
I don't think we will ever have a formal relationship, a formal contact with any alien species out there, especially after 9/11.
Coneheads was an interesting concept where aliens are coming into society. Now, I know there are certain weird parts of the story to the police officer that's trying to catch them in the beginning, and they're fitting into society as normal. It is a little bit ridiculous. The creativity, the fun that he had creating this work of art is something else to think about. And the screenplay that he did for it, he enjoyed the process. And compared to the original screenplay to the final production, there weren't that many changes. Only some minor creative changes adding the science fiction element into the comedy.
My man, you trying to tell me you don't have a social security number?
Correct.
Why not?
I am an illegal alien.
Number 3, Nothing But Trouble.
Hear this, I'm gonna go out for a smoke.
Go for a smoke? Dennis, they got guns, drugs. One of them trying to kill you.
Nothing But Trouble is an interesting film. Dan Aykroyd wrote the screenplay with his brother, Peter Aykroyd. The two brothers worked together on the screenplay. From the original concept, after a test audience saw part of the film, it was too violent and too bloody. I think in some ways it possibly may have had an R rating or MA. To get the rating down to satisfy a larger audience, there were a lot of drastic changes that were made for the story ahead. This was one film Dan Aykroyd enjoyed. He has played some interesting antagonists from The Great Outdoors to this movie. So there are a lot of things to think about when you are writing a story and getting into character, just like Dan Aykroyd.
Okay, I hereby find all parties culpable in these matters as charged, and so choose to invade the maximum levy for these violations, and do therefore deem that you be conveyed to a holy, awful place of execution, wherein you shall be put to death.
Number 2, First Time Director. Nothing But Trouble is Dan Aykroyd's first movie he directed. After working in the deal with Warner Brothers and getting the agreement to $40 million, which went over by $5 million, the movie, he was already organised with the screenplay, but he couldn't get a director, and he was already starring in the film as its main antagonist. So then, it led to Nothing But Trouble. See what I did there? So he had to work on set as the director. There was also another character that was cast that no one wanted to play as, being Baby Bobo, which was also created from weird nightmares that he had previously. Dan Aykroyd had to work in with playing the character, directing on set, and he was also Baby Bobo at certain scenes. So imagine looking like that, wearing a big nappy, and directing people on set. The production had a lot more challenges because Chevy Chase was also difficult to work in with, as that has been said with a lot of things that Chevy Chase does. I know Dan Aykroyd also wrote Spies Like Us. However, with that movie, I haven't watched it because I'm not a Chevy Chase fan. Putting certain prejudices aside, I did enjoy this movie, and other parts I didn't enjoy the movie, though the creativity is something quite interesting, with the premise of Nothing But Trouble being in a kangaroo court. The movie was also inspired originally from Dan Aykroyd having a speeding ticket in another area, and so instead of having a $50 fine to pay, it was moving to an area of a kangaroo court with a justice of the peace. And with everyone that was there, they were hospitable. He was there for a few hours and even had dinner. So you can see how some things in life can lead towards some creative artwork, and I have to give Dan Aykroyd credit. He did a lot to try to direct and star in and write the screenplay for this movie, Nothing But Trouble, which is starting to get a cult following many years later. At the time, it didn't do too well. Number one piece of advice. Quote, "In anything you're doing, collaborate with experts, people who are smarter than you, and take their advice." In more recent years, I've listened to this advice and definitely doing that. I wish I did this a lot younger in life. I also think with certain things, you don't have to burden yourself with so many pressures. You don't have to be the soccer mum, the scout master. Don't have to be there for everything that your children do. Sometimes you need to take a step back, let people do what they do, and other times you join in when you need to. With this all being said, with directing, he did that one shot, and there were some challenges. I give him a lot of credit because it seemed to be a lot of pressure he was under. I could only imagine the makeup time it would take with the Baby Bobo costume and directing on set. That's some dedication to that work of art. And with a lot of things he said, he has done what he seeked to do in Hollywood. He slowed down in life. He had a career with Saturday Night Live. Some of the comedic aspects helped with his writing. With what can we learn from this today? There are a lot of things that you can do, but one piece of advice: through certain struggles that you have, you don't need to outsource everything to yourself to write a book. You can publish a book, you can write a book, and sometimes some help is out there if you're willing to look for it. Otherwise, that's it for today. Hit like, subscribe, comment. I'll be doing more videos about different writers, screenplay writers, and more importantly, I am focused more on publishing books. However, that's another story and shall be told another time.